Welcome to Insight Engine. This briefing was compiled via a Gemini deep search, with detailed sources available in the linked Notebook LM document. For over a century, Saccharomyces species have been recognized as safe industrial workhorses and therapeutic probiotics. Today, clinical mycologists recognize them as opportunistic pathogens capable of causing lethal systemic infections. In a healthy gut, these yeast capsules dissolve to reinforce the mucosal barrier. But in a critically ill patient with severe inflammation, those same yeast cells actively penetrate the compromised mucosa and enter the bloodstream. This is iatrogenic fungemia. The medical interventions intended to support the patient, such as probiotics, broad-spectrum antibiotics, and invasive catheters, are the precise vectors facilitating the infection. As the clinical burden of non-candida yeast infections rises, understanding the taxonomy, pathogenesis, and resistance profiles of Saccharomyces is a requirement for infectious disease professionals. This briefing maps the genomic reclassification of these yeasts, deconstructs their specific pathogenesis, and details the strict diagnostic and treatment protocols required for management, including the Dutch SWA guidelines. The physiological traits that allow Saccharomyces to survive the harsh gastric environment as a fungi were assigned one name for their asexual mitotic state, the anamorph, and an entirely different name for their sexual meiotic state, the teleomorph. Following the One Fungus, One Name initiative implemented in January 2013, separate naming conventions were abolished. The anamorphic designation Candida robusta is now definitively mapped under its teleomorph root, Saccharomyces cerevisiae. Similarly, the industrial strain historically known as Saccharomyces carlsbergensis is now classified as Saccharomyces pastorianus, an allotetraploid hybrid formed by the merging of Saccharomyces cerevisiae and the cryotolerant Saccharomyces eubianus. Relying on outdated anamorphic names in modern clinical reporting obscures the organism's true evolutionary lineage and specific genetic profile. Resolving these names into a single lineage allows clinical microbiologists to begin tracking specific traits across the species complex. Systemic human infection requires a pathogen to survive at internal body temperatures. Within the Saccharomyces genus, thermotolerance acts as the primary biological gatekeeper. This comparative matrix outlines the virulence limits of these yeasts. Clinical isolates of Saccharomyces cerevisiae routinely survive at 37 to 39 degrees Celsius, while Saccharomyces pastorianus exhibits severe growth inhibition above 34 degrees. That strict temperature limitation effectively prevents Saccharomyces pastorianus from disseminating systemically in an immunocompetent host. Expanding to an intergenus view, the matrix displays distinct biological differences. Candida albicans possesses highly evolved tissue-penetrating true hyphae, specialized ALS adhesins, and potent secreted aspartyl proteinases. Saccharomyces lacks these mechanisms, relying instead on rudimentary pseudohyphae and basic flocculants. Because of this limited enzymatic and morphological profile, Saccharomyces cannot actively breach intact human epithelial tissue. By itself, its intrinsic virulence is exceptionally low. For Saccharomyces to become a fatal pathogen, it requires profound host immunosuppression or direct iatrogenic inoculation into the bloodstream. Iatrogenic Saccharomyces infection progresses through three strict clinical phases: massive oral colonization, translocation across the mucosal barrier, and systemic dissemination. Translocation is observed almost exclusively in patients with profound neutropenia, hematological malignancies, or those enduring prolonged hospitalization in the intensive care unit. The pathogen can also bypass the gut entirely. Contaminated central venous catheters serve as a direct exogenous route for the yeast to enter the vascular system. Once in the blood, the infection mimics standard bacterial sepsis. Patients present with nonspecific systemic inflammatory response syndrome, characterized by refractory fever, hypotension, and tachycardia. This data visualization maps the global epidemiological burden. Saccharomyces accounts for roughly 1 to 3.6% of all fungemias, yet it carries an all-cause mortality rate of 36.1%. The data reveals the source. Nearly 70% of these specific fungemia cases are directly linked to the administration of Saccharomyces boulardii probiotics. Medical interventions designed for healing have become the primary vectors for this pathogen. The clinical diagnostic workflow begins with microscopy, identifying ovoid Bang yeast cells. To differentiate Saccharomyces from anamorphic genera like Candida, laboratories induce the formation of ascospores using nutrient-poor media. Today, matrix-assisted laser desorption ionization time-of-flight mass spectrometry, or MALDI-TOF, serves as the modern standard for rapid species-level identification. The system ionizes ribosomal proteins from a colony smear, generating a specific peptide mass fingerprint that matches the organism to a database within minutes. While MALDI-TOF is rapid, precise strain subtyping during an outbreak requires molecular diagnostics, utilizing RNA sequencing of the ITS regions and pulsed field gel electrophoresis. Clinicians must avoid a common diagnostic trap. Anti-Saccharomyces cerevisiae antibodies, or ASCA, are highly prevalent diagnostic markers for inflammatory bowel disease, but they have zero diagnostic value for identifying active Fungemia. Once the organism is identified, the laboratory performs antifungal susceptibility testing. This presents a major clinical challenge because neither EUCAST nor CLSI have established official clinical breakpoints for the Saccharomyces genus. Laboratories must interpret minimum inhibitory concentrations using epidemiological cutoff values derived from phenotypic broth microdilution or gradient diffusion strips. High minimum inhibitory concentrations for azole drugs are common. This cross-resistance is driven by mutations in the ERG11 gene, which alter the binding site of the 14-alpha demethylase target enzyme. A secondary resistance mechanism occurs when PDR1 mutations upregulate ATP-binding cassette transporters, actively pumping the antifungal agents out of the cell. Without standardized clinical breakpoints, understanding these molecular resistance mechanisms is the only way clinicians can select effective drugs and prevent treatment failure. The international consensus for treating Saccharomyces fungemia dictates two immediate interventions: discontinue the probiotic instantly and remove all central venous catheters. Due to the high frequency of azole cross-resistance, fluconazole is highly unreliable. Preferred initial pharmacological therapies are amphotericin B or echinocandins. In the Netherlands, the Dutch Working Party on Antibiotic Policy, or SWAB, outlines strict protocols in their antibiotic booklet. They mandate early empirical therapy tailored specifically to local, hospital-level susceptibility patterns. To counter rising resistance, next-generation therapeutics are entering clinical trials. Ibrexafungerb is a novel triterpenoid that inhibits glucan synthase at a completely different binding site, bypassing traditional echinocandin resistance mutations. Another compound, fosmanogepix, targets the GWT1 enzyme. By inhibiting this enzyme, it disrupts the anchoring of vital proteins to the cell wall, destroying the fungus through a novel pathway. Saccharomyces exhibits significant phenotypic plasticity. Managing it requires evolving our pharmacological toolkit from broad-spectrum polyenes to highly targeted enzymatic inhibitors. During a suspected outbreak, the clinical microbiology laboratory transitions to high-resolution epidemiology. They utilize pulsed field gel electrophoresis to prove a definitive clonal match between the yeast in a patient's blood culture and the specific probiotic supply used on the ward. This diagram tracks the physical mechanics of nosocomial transmission. Healthcare workers opening dry probiotic packets can contaminate their hands and the immediate environment, inadvertently transferring the yeast directly to a patient's intravenous line. To prevent aerosolization and cross-contamination, hospital probiotic stewardship programs mandate a strict rule. Biotherapeutic capsules must never be opened in the vicinity of patients with central lines. Phylogenomic analysis shows that clinical isolates originate from a wide range of backgrounds, including both industrial and probiotic lineages. Pathogenicity appears to be a result of inherent phenotypic plasticity. In the modern intensive care unit, there is no universally safe microbe. Clinical vigilance applied to primary pathogens must be applied equally to therapeutic probiotics. All peer-reviewed sources for this briefing are available in the linked Notebook LM document. Subscribe to Insight Engine and share your clinical encounters with iatrogenic